So today I'm going to work on some wire wrap. I needed to rewrap this little labradorite. I did a couple of these for a friend of mine, and one of them got really loose, so I'm just going to rewrap it. Now today I'm going to be using this black 21 gauge square wire, and it's by Parawire. I like the non-tarnish. So the black does scratch a little bit. Sometimes you have to kind of fill it in with a marker or something. But we're going to wrap it in black. So I've measured the stone. You measure it clear round. This one is about 3 inches all the way around. So measured around the circumference, and then I usually add 4 inches. You take your wire, it comes on a roll, but you take your wire and measure it out. So I normally do about cabochons that are about 1 inch. So they end up about 3 inches around. 1 inch is a good size for a necklace for the normal person. Some are bigger, some are smaller. But at any rate, it's 3 inches around. I add 4 inches for the curly cues and things like that. So you just measure it out. I've cut, I think 3 wires will be okay, because this stone is only about 1/4 inch wide. So I think that'll be enough. If it's a wider stone, you want to put more wire. So 4 probably. So what you do next, well, hopefully you have all your tools together. So we've got a bail maker. This is a wire straightener. So this is what I used to straighten the wire, because it comes curled, and so you want to get it as straight as possible. Now this is soft. This is soft wire. So semi-soft or hard soft, dead soft they call it. So you use a little wire straightener to straighten the wires. Get them all ready. Here's a couple little tools that I'm going to use. This has a little flat nose depending on what I want to do. Here is, I like to use these little flat nose to bend the wire. And then here's some cutters that I use to cut the wire. So I've got 3 of the 21 gauge square, and then I've got half round. So I like the 21 gauge half round as well. It works well with the 21 gauge. So I usually cut a 6 inch to wrap the bail, 6 inch of the half round to wrap the bail. And for this wrapping, I'm going to use 3 little pieces as well to kind of cage the cabochon. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with these, but I cut them all ahead of time, and I usually cut about 3 inches, and that's usually more than enough unless you have a really big stone. So 3 of those, 3 3-inchers and 1 6-incher to hook the bail together. So here's your first step. You've cut the wire, you've straightened it. It's pretty good. I sometimes warm it up because it works a little bit better. And I just kind of gauge where the middle is. Now you take your wire and you want the flat side down, because the flat side is going to lay against the flat side of this square wire and it'll adhere better. So I put it down, try to hold it down, start wrapping it around. Now this is a small stone, so I'm just going to wrap it around 5 times. So actually be wrapped around 4 times, and then where you held it down, that's going to be the 5th. So we're just going to put 5 little wraps there. And then I use either my wire straightener, because you don't want to, you know, scratch up your wire, especially the black, because it scratches really easy. So you just, it's kind of hard to see because it's black, but it's just smashed down flat, top, bottom. You can use your little flat nose pliers as well. So now don't flatten it too hard, because you might want to move it. You got to measure and get it right in the middle. And then I'm going to go back and put another one. Same process. Flat end down. It's kind of hard to see with this shiny black. I think this is the flat end. I just hold it like that. Hold it down, wrap it around. 2, 3, 4. And then the first row you were holding, fold it under. That's the back side. This is the front side. Again, I'll take my wire straighteners and I'll crush it. Okay, so it kind of stays in place. So this is about the middle. So this is going to be the left side. Up here will be the right side. So I'm going to do that same process again. Flat side down of the half round, 21 gauge half round. I mean, you could use whatever gauge you want. If you want bigger and bulkier, you could do that. I have used 18 gauge and it works well too. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is your 5th. So see, it's not together, it's kind of separated, so you want to get it together, because this is going to act as the glue that holds it together. It's going to keep the wire bound so it doesn't come apart. Okay, so now we have 3. Hopefully you could see that. So here's the back. Next, I take my little cutters, my little wire cutters, and I go right in there and snip it right up next to the square wire, as close as you can get it without overdoing it. Okay? So we're working on the back. We're just snipping off what we don't need. I like to get really close in there. Now close your eyes or use glasses when you're doing this, because sometimes if you snip it hard, it can go flying. These nippers aren't very strong, so it's not flipping around. Sometimes it just flies. So then again, you want to crimp this down. You're just flattening it towards the back. So see? Hopefully you can see where the copper's coming through on the black. So that's going to be the back side. So make sure, now you can feel this if you, like here, you can't feel anything on this one. This one is poking out a little bit. You don't want that, because if you're going to put this up next to a nice dress or blouse, you don't want it scratching it up. So double check that. So there's the back side that you've just fixed. Here's the front. Okay. So then what I do, I have my little, you can get, there's sticky tape you could put on your table, or just, you know, regular little tape, and use that. So what I do next, this is 7 inches. I want to have the middle half round binding right at the middle. So I wanted it 3.5. Okay. So that is, oops, I better double check it. Yep, it's still at 3.5. Okay. So then I get these kind of where I think they're going to fall, because we're going to make a cage. Okay. I'll show you the cage in the next video. So I like to use these little beading mats, because they don't, then it doesn't slide around as much. So here's my little labradorite. Lots of flash on that. It's one of my friend's favorites. We've prepared our wire. I don't think it's moved, but I'm going to double check and make sure that the center tie has not moved at all. No, it hasn't. Okay, so make sure the center, we're hanging this stone straight up and down like this. If we're going to hang it sideways, you would want to put your center here and wrap up the side. But we're hanging it up and down this way. Straight up and down, long ways. So you position your middle, I'm going to call it a tie, as close as you can get it to the middle of the stone on the side. Then you pull it up, hold the stone down, hold your little tie down here in the center and pull it up. So see, that's going around that side. Now, this is just because this is the way I do it. I learned a different way, but I've done so many now, I've kind of got the hang of it. So then you take your little, I like the flat nose for this, and wrap it up above, because we're going to put a tie here to tie it in and make a little cage. So I'll show you this on the side, so hopefully you could see it a little better. Let me get a little closer. So there's the bottom tie. Put it right in the middle. Got to kind of get used to holding your fingers this way, so I hold it that way. Then, now this is dead soft wire, so it bends pretty easily. And these little guys will move around a little bit, but that's okay because you want to have playroom here. So then you bend the other side up. And we're sort of forming a cage around it, or we are forming a cage. So then I take my pliers and I do the same thing on this end. Now I measure it a little bit just to make sure we have some room in there. That looks like it's going to fit nicely. And you don't want it too snug because you're going to be playing with these wires and tightening it. And they will, it'll get a little bit smaller. So that looks, in my experience, that looks good to me. So I straighten these directly across or wherever you want them. You can get funky and just put them every which way after you get used to doing what you're doing. Okay. So at this point, we're going to tie it up here and start bending. And I'll show you in the next video. Okay, so now we've got our cage just about ready to go. And I use these little, they have a wire in them, but they're plastic around. They're just little ties that you get off products that you buy at the store. So I hang on to all those to use for this, to hold it together. So you can use an old piece of wire or something like that, but these plastic coated wires, they don't scratch it. And I don't like my stuff scratched. I've seen other people's that are very scratched. Now, if you go to another class and you're actually in class, they might have you tape this. They also might have you tape the wires together before you put these on, things like that. But I've been doing this for a while now, so I'm accustomed to doing it. Okay, so you've got your little cage ready. Now we're going to start bending the wire and making the cage so it sticks together. So again, this is the way I do it. Other teachers will do it a different way, but this works for me. So I go in and I start working out the little cage. I go to the first wire, the top wire, and bend it. Make sure you keep your little ties in there where you want them. They will move around. So you just kind of work with the wire. Now, the more you work with the wire, it's not going to be as soft. It's called dead soft. But the more you hammer it or work with it or move it around, it gets harder. It gets more solid. So see, I bent the two out on the bottom because we're going to cage it. Then I go to the top. Now you can get a little crazy and do different styles here, but I'm doing basic. So you get the top wire here, bend it out a little bit, however you like it, whatever design you like. The idea is to cage it and hold the stone. So I'm going to go to the other side. And then I always lift it a little because we want to put the stone in there and lock it in. So then you position your stone. You know, a lot of stones are different. Like this one has a lot of glimmer in it, but it's got a lot of black flecks down at the bottom. If, you know, just depending on how you want it to work in there. So see, that looks like it's going to work. I just test it. So test it a little bit, then go to the back side and take your bottom and do the same thing. Lift it out a little so you can get your stone in there. Go to the other side of the back. So this is going to feel really different to you the first several times you do it. But once you start doing it, you'll get the hang of it. And I know it seems like I'm going fast, but it's just because I've done it before. So we've pulled the wire out to try to form a cage, all 4 areas in the front. Then I've also pulled the wire out in the back. So you've got a little cage. Now I leave the top open for now so that we can get the stone in. So put your stone in, hold it in there. Now be careful when you're messing with this because I have dropped stones and broken them before. So just use your pliers or your fingers. See, they do fall out pretty easily because you're just forming the cage right now. So I use my fingers, my pliers, whatever you want to use. I do have coated pliers because I don't want to scratch them. And just pin those little openings you made down. You're going to flatten them against the stone. Just work it. And the more you touch it, the warmer it's going to be and the wire's going to move better. So hold on to it, work it around. I kind of get in here, push it up because we're going to tighten it up here. And you want to make sure as you're working on this and caging it in that you hold on to that stone so you don't flip it somewhere and break it. So these are like little points that you want to wrap around the stone. Okay, once you feel like you've gotten that pretty secure, the front, you've pulled it down, you've got as much as you want, holding it in, then you can go to the back. And you see why we need this on here? You need this little wire on top because it holds these secure and you're not losing it. You're not losing the wires all over the place. So I use my finger because it works best to get that wire opened up. Get the top wire on the top back opened up and do the same movement for whatever design you want. This is just the simplest while I'm teaching. So I'm encaging the back now. Wow, look at the glimmer on that labradorite. That is just amazing. Okay, now I've got one more little attachment. See, now I flipped on that and it did scratch a little bit. Okay, so I've pushed it all down here. I've straightened it out. Get it to where you like it. If you think it's totally enclosed, now see, this wire moves pretty easily. So if you feel like you've got it enclosed enough, you want to test it and make sure it's not going to fall out. Make sure these little enclosures are over the stone sufficient enough to hold it in, because you don't want someone wearing it and the stone falling out. And that's one of the ways I test. So this needs to come up a little more. So just keep working with it till you get it to where you're comfortable with it. Now you still will be able to go back and tighten it once you get the bail made. Okay, so that's pretty well enclosed there. It's pretty tight. I will go back and make sure everything's flat. But you see, that's not coming out. That's not coming loose. Okay, next I'll show you how to do the bail. So now we are going to work on making the bail. So we used 3 wires here. One went to the front, one went to the back, and one stayed in the middle. That was to enclose the labradorite. So we have 6 wires at the top because you came up either side. So you end up with 6 wires at the top. So I take the 3 closest wires to the front and just bend them over to get them out of the way. Just pull them out of the way. We're going to use that to make a decoration like we have on this one. And then you've got the 3 wires that are going to become our bail. Now I kind of straighten them out so I can try to get it flat. And I'm going to use the bigger end. I usually use, this is a 6 and an 8 millimeter bail. So I have different sizes, but this is one of my favorites sizes because I like a large bail so you can fit any type of chain through. So I'm going to use the large size, which is 8 millimeters. Position it about there because you're going to roll it over. I'll do this to the side so you could see. So then you roll it over, and then I hold it down with this finger and kind of pull up to flatten it out. Don't worry, this wire's bendable, so it's going to bend a little bit. And just form your little bail there. See how you do that? Pull it out so you've got the start of a bail. Now what I do here is take our little thingamabobber off, our little rubber wrapped wire from the grocery store, which I have them all over the house. I hang on to them. So I want to try to get this bail up as close as I can. The front wires to the back wires, the bail, I want everything connected. So again, I use these as a little crimper and crimp it together. And you can move these around. They move pretty easily. But see how I did that? I just crimped it together because I want it nice and snug and tight. That's what it looks like. Then I put my little wire back on. So you might find an easier way to do this or a different way or watch other videos, whatever works for you. This is just how I do it. So see, now I've got that snug and tight. I'm kind of training it to get in there because we're going to end up putting this 6-inch wire there to hold it in. So once I know that I've got my bail pretty much set up the way I want it, I'm going to go back and get my little cutters. Let's see, I might use these. Now I do it at this point because once you wrap this top part of the bail, I've snipped it off before by accident, and then that messes up the whole thing and you got to start over. So I just take these tail wires and again snip them off. We're going to cover those. They are copper, but we're going to cover them. You won't have to worry. So see, I just cut them off to the point that you think it's necessary to hold that bail in there. And that's what it looks like up close. You could see the copper because it's copper wire and it's coated with black. But that's all nice and tight. So our next step is to secure all this with our 6-inch wire. So again, remember I told you, use the flat side down so it stays flush. And this black is really hard to tell, but I think this is the flat. So we've trained this. Sorry, I have this wire in my mouth. We've trained this little bail, so it's pretty flush. It's pretty close. See how good that looks? Now, just hold it. Get your flat side, which I'm having a hard time seeing here. I think that's the flat side. I leave a little bit extended so we can wrap that tail under, and then just start wrapping it around like you did the other. Now, I pull it tight, and this wire is so bendable you could just use your fingers. Well, at least I do. So you start wrapping it and you really secure it. Now I usually check this first in, tuck it down under, because you don't want it coming loose and you don't want it showing. And then you just keep wrapping it around. So I usually start at the top. Gosh, I hope you could see this. I start at the top and just work my way down. Now, if you have a larger stone, you're gonna have to use a larger piece of wire here because you're gonna wanna make sure it's secure. So keep wrapping it. Sometimes it comes out straight across, and sometimes it comes out a little wonky. This one's gonna be a little wonky because I'm showing you on camera. So you just keep going around and you're covering and tightening that attachment and securing it. So see how that covered all the way down the copper. Now there's a little tail here. So you see right at the end, there's the little piece right there. Now we save a little piece because this black is really hard to see, but you could see it sticking out there. I take that tail and I tuck it under. Use whatever tools feel most comfortable to you and tuck it under. Cut off a little bit if you need to. Whatever you need to do to get it down underneath, because you want to secure it down in there. There we go. Now I have little tweezers I use. I have all kinds of different implements, but whatever you can use to secure it down underneath. So you want everything tight and secure. So here's our bail. It will easily fit a nice little chain through here to hang it. And I'll come back in a second and I'll show you what we're going to do with these little guys that are hanging out. Now see how nice and snug that is? It's not going to go anywhere. You've got a nice big bail here. You can put a ribbon, a rope, anything you want, and it's going to slide across nicely. And it's nice and secure. You've tucked this little tail in. You've tucked the tail in that you started with. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Okay, so we finished securing the bail. Nice large size bail. We've gone around and tightened it. Tighten all your little enclosures here. Press them down so it's in there nice and snug. Straightened it up so it's all lined up. Tested it so it's not going to fall out of its little enclosure. So these are these leftover wires. Some people do not want the little curly cues or any type of decoration on it. Now you can bend these wires all over to make all different types of decorations. I just do the basic, and I try to make sure they're very secure so that they're not catching on people's jewelry or anything like that. So I'm just going to show you today how to do these little curlicues here, if you could see them. So we've got 3 leftover wires that we've pulled out front when we made the bail out of the back 3. So I usually go in and cut these diagonally, whatever length you want. You need enough room to curl it though. So I'm going to try to even them out and just cut them, snip them off diagonally, because I feel like they curl in better when you do that. So I've just cut each of the wires. They now are about the same length. And then I'm going to use, I'll just use these little round ones. You can do a different shape by using something that's square, but I kind of like the round ones. So I am going to grab the wire at the end, turn it up, and turn it inward. So see, now I've cut it diagonally. If you could see that. Where I cut it diagonally, it's nestled right up against the wire. So once I do that, I just put my little pliers back in and twist it up. You just keep twisting, and it's made that little curl. Smash it down, make it even, fix it how you like it. You can leave it rough if you want, or curl it in. Then you go on and do the next one. Now, I usually do the 2 outsides first. So I'm used to doing this, so I use my fingers to hold everything together. So you bend it first and tuck it in, nestle it in up against the wire. See if you can see that. It's nestled in. Doesn't help that I have black clothes on, huh? So, see, you can see how I nestled it right up there. Then you go back, put your little wire tool in here, curl it up, pull it out. So you can do fanciness, pull it over here and put it. You could do up through the back. But I find that when there's wires wrapped all over, it's easier to get caught on people's clothes. And I don't think that's a good idea, because this is still pliable. It will get harder as you're working it, but it is still pliable, and you don't want it catching on people's clothes or on something else you're wearing. So then here we're going to the middle one. It's cut diagonally. I like to nestle it flat up against the other wire. Just like that. Then I go back in, put my pliers right in there, in the center, to the side, see? Then you're just kind of twisting it up whatever which way. It's not exact. I smash them down a little bit, smash them so they're nice and tight. They're all about the same size, but they're not perfectly the same size. And you can leave it like that and just use that as your decoration. However, I like to turn this in. I just twist it around and turn it in. So both sides are facing inward. I overlap them a little bit over the middle. And just nestle it up the way you like it. You could do whatever you want. You can have it really wild. You could have it perfectly neat. But wire wrapping isn't an exact science. It's kind of a hippie boho. So you don't want it exactly. I don't anyway. You could do it any way you want. Now make sure your tails are tucked in there tight, because you don't want anything loose catching on your clothes, anything like that. So there you go. You've created your first wire wrap necklace. So here's the pendant. I use all kinds of different necklaces with mine, but I thought this blue would look really nice because this has a lot of blue flash in it. So I'll be sending that along with her as as a gift, along with a little black chain. So you can find all kinds of chains or necklaces to use. So this is a labradorite. What do I know about labradorite? It's supposed to be transformational, and they say it's useful to wear and change. It'll give you strength and perseverance. It balances and protects the aura, probably because it's like a Aurora Borealis type stone. Shoot, look at the back on that. Wow, that's beautiful. And it also grounds spiritual energy. So it's a beautiful stone to wear. And when you hit it in the right light, it'll flash right off of you and people will notice it. Thanks for watching. Next up, I'll be working on some of this Ellensburg blue that I picked up on one of my trips over to Cle Elum, Washington. I think I'll wire wrap that in silver. And I've also got a snowflake obsidian that I need to wrap, and she wants that in silver. So I'll be making videos on those as well. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Look at the flash on that. Wow.